I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but I kind of became a contrarian, meaning I sometimes, maybe even often, have a contrary view than those around me. Um, I don't think this is a good or a bad thing necessarily, but sometimes it gets in the way, and I have to bite my lip. A lot of times, I'm sorry, but I wait too late to bite my lip. Well, there's a contrarian concept in First Peter chapter 3, and it's in verse 9. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, there's the word, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. We talked about this last time, that this upside down economy of God, where what seems to be impulsive for us, this urge to take vengeance, this drive for revenge, to not only get even, but to 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 get them. Uh, this gets set on its head, and Jesus says, instead of returning like for like, if I'm hurt, I'll hurt you. If you insult me, I'll insult you back. Instead of that, he says, return a blessing for evil. This is not normal, but it's supposed to mark, it's supposed to be characteristic of a follower of Jesus. And then Peter goes on to quote from the Old Testament, the book of Psalms, where in Psalm 34, for whoever would love life and seek good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Well, that quotation from Psalm 34 has enough in it that I could spend a very long time with it. I'm just going to try and hit the high points. Whoever would love life and see good days. Well, that should be all of us, right? Must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. There are a lot of things that reveal what's in a person's heart, their behaviors, actually even their body language, but it's their speech that most often reveals what's in their heart. Evil speech. Well, everybody's got their own gauge for what is and what is not evil in terms of evil speech. I have a feeling that many of us, I put myself in this bucket, our speech reveals a darkness in our heart. And the psalmist writes, if you want long life and good days, you got to keep your tongue from evil and your lips from deceitful speech. Little white lies. What the difference between a little white lie and a big whopping lie? Well, lies are lies. I think when God looks into our lives, it's not about the degree, it's not about the size of the lie. And then in verse 11, they must turn from evil and do good. That is a great definition for what in other places in the Bible is called repentance. Some people mistake remorse for repentance. They feel really bad for what they've done. Isn't that enough? I counsel couples more often than I would hope would ever be the case, but I often counsel couples where infidelity has happened. And it doesn't just happen. one of them commits it. And interesting to me is that many of the adulterous partners feel horrible, but they don't really change their behavior. They kind of think this remorse, their sadness is enough. Is not. And one of my jobs as counselor is to help them understand feeling bad is it's probably good that you feel bad, but that's not enough. That doesn't fix this issue. What has to happen is you got to have an amount of remorse, absolutely. Because if you were remorseless, then it would mean your conscience has been totally seared, totally dulled, totally numbed. But because your conscience has not been numbed, either because your conscience has not been numbed, or because you're a great actor and you just want to get off of this thing as fast as you can and get on with whatever you want to do in your life, you are demonstrating sorrow. Great. Good for you. Now move on to the next thing, and that is demonstrating repentance. I think it was John the Baptist who told the Pharisees they need to show fruit of repentance, which is this changed life. It's what the psalmist words is, turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. I am a peace lover. I don't seek out conflict, and I don't really very much like it when it happens. It makes me uncomfortable and anxious. I have this agitated feeling when I'm in an environment that is not peaceful. There's a difference, I suppose, between a not peaceful environment and a conflicted one. That conflicted one often makes me feel very agitated and uncomfortable. When I seek peace, there's a couple of ways that happens. One is I could seek situations where I know there will be peace, right? There's no reason to go looking for conflict, right? But conflict often finds me. And in that situation, how do I seek peace? Well, I don't want to make more of this than probably ought to be made of it, but I got to say this. There are a lot of times I don't have any control over whether there will be peace or not. For me to seek peace in those conflicted situations, I have to seek it in my own heart. I have to center myself on Christ, on His goodness. I have to remind myself of my status with Him. I have to find my own peace and carry it into the conflict. There's another way, another perspective on seek peace. Jesus talks about this in the Beatitudes, where He said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons and daughters of God." Peacemakers. I don't get to make peace, but sometimes I could facilitate peace. I think that's what the psalmist is talking about. Seek peace and pursue it. Every relationship will encounter conflict. And if we let the conflict stall out our pursuit of depth, we lose. The relationship loses. In churches, churches are notoriously bad at knowing what to do with conflict. It's as though Matthew chapter 18 doesn't even appear in the New Testament, because that's where Jesus gives a model for dealing with conflict. We don't do that. In most churches, conflict arises because of opposing preferences and opinions. There are times when it's about doctrine, and it really is a conflict of worldviews, one legitimate, one not. But they are the vast minority of times. This is my experience. Most often they're about what I like as opposed to what you like. We get in conflict over that. We don't know what to do about it. We'll tell anybody except the one that we need to tell. Well, the psalmist says, seek peace and pursue it. This means, to pursue means to go after, right? How do you go after peace? Well, you have to somehow approach, and in some cases confront, the one with whom you have a conflict. This is not a very popular thing among churches, at least not the churches I've ever had anything to do with. I learned this, that the smartest thing anybody can do when there is a conflict is to go to the one with whom they have the conflict. From a friend of mine, Danny Hinkle. He had a great way of approaching this. He was the senior minister at the first church I ever served full time. He's also my best friend. It was a gift from God to have not quite 2 years working together in that church. And as the senior minister, he was kind of the lightning rod. He was the gatherer, without intending to be, of discontent. People would, it's funny, in the old days, you would exit the auditorium, which we called sanctuary, which I got a big rant about that I won't share. Anyway, we would exit the auditorium, and you shook the hand of the preacher and any of the other staff that were there, right? It was more or less a reception line. Well, people would shake Danny's hand, and they, in that setting, they would tell him about something they didn't like, or something someone had done or hadn't done. And instead of what I was kind of felt like, okay, oh gosh, that makes me responsible now. What should I do about this complaint? What should I do about this problem? How can I fix this? Danny had a great saying. He would listen, and he was, well, have you talked to, and then he would name the person that they had named, almost without exception. And I do not remember a time that there was an exception. The person who was bringing the complaint would have to say, well, no, I thought you would. No, you should go to them, and then let me know how that works. That's pretty much a very simplified application of the model of Matthew 18 and dealing with conflict. Pursue peace means to go after peace. Go to the person. That Matthew 18 says, go to the person that you have this issue with. Seek peace and pursue it. Because for the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayers. You see, it's almost like, remember that old song, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful what okay. He sees it all. His eyes are on us. And it's not so much so that he can strike a lightning bolt when we step out of line. But he sees what's happening. He sees our behavior, and he sees beyond our behavior to our attitude. And he hears our prayers. And then that's the positive side. Here's the negative. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Okay, that's a word picture. The face of the Lord is against. You know what it's like to have someone's face turned toward you in love. There's almost nothing that feels better than that. I love the loving look of my kids, grandkids, siblings, wife, friends. I like that. But I also know when they look at me and I get the look, the stink eye. That's the picture here. The stink eye from God. Holy cow. But God, But God, the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Of all the beings in all the cosmos, I do not want to be against me. It would be the Lord. Well, there's so much in learning how to love effectively And Peter gives us a very strong model of this. Here's your assignment. Go back to verse 9 and just start itemizing the things to do and not to do. Put them in a little grocery list. Don't judge yourself, but observe yourself for the next week. And be mindful of these things on your grocery list. Well, I got to run. My time's up. I hope I get to connect again with you this way on Facebook. Or this isn't Facebook, is it? This is So Care Stevie Boy.